Welcome once again to How to Relate to Anyone. Here is Dr. Orv Owens.
Hello again, and we welcome you to a six lesson series here on authority. One of the great problems I've found as a consultant in working with management teams is most managers do not understand how to use authority rather than abuse authority. And so we're going to look at 5 different authorities, and this first lesson is going to be an overview of the 5, and then we're on the next 5 lessons we're going to spend some time on each one of these and get into some applications and type of thing that you need to understand to make sure that you're using authority rather than abusing authority. What happens with abuse of authority is turnover in personnel, low morale, people quitting, people talking at the coffee shop or in the coffee room back and forth about the lousy boss and that type of thing. Dissension in the ranks, all these things can happen with the abuse of authority. And authority is one of those things that we love if it's in proper perspective. We hate it if it's out of whack. If it's not being used properly, it literally causes conflict within oneself and with other people. And that's not good in a work situation. For you that are in the sales field, use of authority in a sales situation is vital. If you lose your authority position in a sales situation, you're no longer in a sales situation, and you can't close the sale if you give it away. And you know when you've done that also, you know when you've lost, you know when they've tuned you out. Well, the reason they've tuned you out is because you have abused your authority as a sales situation. So we'll talk a little bit about each of those in some detail in the following 5 lessons, but I wanted to do just a quick overview so you know where we're going with this and have an understanding of where it applies in your life and in your business. We're looking at authority by commission as number 1. Authority by commission is where you have been placed in a position of authority by authority. That can be voted in, it can be placed or hired by top management to fill a management position. It can be CEO of a corporation by virtue of the board of directors hiring you. But you've been given authority by authority. Authority always comes from the top down, so there has to be a source of authority that's giving you that authority. So we call it authority by commission because you're commissioned to do a certain job with certain responsibilities, and you're given the authority to function in that position. And that authority needs to be used to create high level of productivity. That's the goal. We award you, we give you authority to function in this position to produce, to create, to rally the troops, to create teamwork, all the things that a manager must do to be productive, no matter whether it's a supervisory position or president of the corporation, and everything in between. And there's a lot of layers in between in many of the corporations we work with. So authority by commission is awarded or given in a hiring or promoting situation where you're promoted to that position or you're hired to fill that position. And it's given to you by upper management or the owner of the company or the board of directors. Second authority is authority by knowledge. Authority by knowledge is that you have the degrees behind your name. You are the doctor, you are the scientist, you are the the accountant, you are the research scientist, you are whatever. Authority by knowledge. That can also be you've worked yourself up through the ranks and now you are a manager by virtue of years of experience, on the job training, trial and error, learning the hard way in many cases, and now you have an expertise in an area that can create productivity on that level. And so we promote you to the supervisory position or the manager position or the senior manager, and there's all kinds of titles. And with each title, the title describes who you answer to and who answers to you. That's pretty much what the title of each position is in an organization. In using this authority by knowledge, it's teaching or causing people to know what to do, what not to do, leading them into a productive position by virtue of doing it right the first time. Knowledge is something that has great value because it saves repetition of creating. We create, learn what it takes to create this, whatever this is. And now we can, with that knowledge, we can reproduce and move on and be highly productive using the knowledge that you brought to the situation. Now here's the thing that's very interesting. In some cases, you are an employee, you're not in a management position at all, but you have some knowledge that nobody else in the room has. And so you're called upon, step forward here and tell us what you would do in this situation. Or you might step forward and say, I've done this before, and what I found that works best. And that knowledge gives you authority to tell even your boss what might work or what can work and become a time saver, and also avoid making some costly mistakes trying to get it right. So what we want everybody on the team, from janitor to the CEO of the corporation, to be able to offer their knowledge based upon their experience. Isn't it interesting? Sometimes the janitor knows something that the CEO needs to know. And now all of a sudden, the janitor has authority by knowledge. Mr. Jones, whatever the CEO's name is, Mr. Jones, here's what you need to understand. When you do this, this, and this, you get this results. Is that the results you want? And incidentally, for each of you that are viewing this program, be sure when you use knowledge, you use it in question format. Otherwise, it sounds like you're bragging or pushy. So when you say, if you do this, this, and this, you're going to get this results, is that the results you want? If you do this, this, and then this, which is a little different, you're going to get this results. Which would you prefer? What are you really going after here? And those kind of questions become use of authority, of knowledge, in support of those who have overall authority and leadership positions. So anybody and everybody should be applying or offering any knowledge they have that's going to make the company more productive, make the event more productive. So using authority by knowledge, as a manager, as a CEO of a company, you should encourage this authority by knowledge. If you know something that I don't know, I want you to tell me, because we want to stay on track. We want to be profitable. We want to do things right. In sales, authority by knowledge comes from, first of all, you have tasted of, tried, applied whatever your product is or service. You have been up to the elbows in it and have seen results and so on. That knowledge is what you're really using as a basis for sales. And the broader that knowledge, in other words, the greater variety of experience you have is going to increase your productivity and closing ratio, because you're going to be able to use knowledge or experiential knowledge in a given situation. So you're dealing with a client and they say, well, we have this problem and I have this problem. And you say, I had a case just exactly like this. And here's what we did to solve the problem with our product or with our service. Using knowledge from experience can put you in a position where you have a higher closing ratio in sales. And so you use knowledge and apply it in given situations, and that helps you close sales. The third authority that we're looking at today is the authority by achievement. And authority by achievement is you have accomplished certain goals in your life. You have created something. Maybe you came up with a formula that's working really well. Maybe you came up with a development of a part for a project, of a vehicle or an airplane or whatever the situation. You have come up with something by your own creativity. And because you created it, you have authority by achievement. You've achieved a level of productivity or a level of creativity that is of value to the company. It might even be a system or a thought process or a response process. Creativity comes in so many ways. In my business as a psychologist, creativity is determining what is holding an individual back from being everything they can be and making a correction to that. And that's my creativity. That's what I have to do if I'm going to earn my wings, so to speak, as a psychologist. I have to be able to see ways of being more productive and guide my clients to a higher level of productivity by better working relationships, better hiring process, better training, filling in gaps in training that the company already has. All of that is a part of what I've done all these years. And in doing that, we've seen productivity increase, which means profitability increases, and everybody smiles a lot. And that's always good. So authority by achievement is always based upon what you have learned that applies in this situation, whether you have a position authority there or not. The fact that you have achieved something in that area gives you authority to say, well, here's what we discovered in developing this product. Here's what we discovered in creating this situation. And authority by achievement in many cases ends up causing you to develop a product or a service that, if it becomes highly profitable, you end up with your own company. And some of you watching this today have come up with some ideas or some products or some services or some sales presentations that are unique, whatever. Creativity that causes achievement, a higher level of achievement in any given area, is highly profitable and can, with proper leadership and direction and so on, proper decision making, can lead into promotions, can lead into titles, can lead into a company. We have companies in this world that were created because of somebody's creativity. And so they achieved a level of creativity that has a profit base to it. And now, right here in the Seattle area, we have a couple of companies that or the owners are multi-billionaires and they started in a garage. Not a bad thing. So if you're creative, there's value to creativity on all levels of any company. Any company. And so the creativity then can create authority by achievement. Here is what I have learned, here's how it applies, and this is why it's profitable to the company. Authority by achievement. We'll talk more about that in a future lesson. Number 4 is authority by recognition. Authority by recognition is where we just recognize you as a person who seems to carry themselves well. Promotions are often based upon authority by recognition. We recognize this employee is a leader and they're taking leadership roles even though they don't have a title. Well, if they're going to be a leader as a subordinate to the rest of the crew and the rest of the crew's asking them questions and following their lead, let's get them in a position where they can touch more lives. So we promote them to a management position. In fact, in most corporations, which you look for leadership on the lower levels to promote to supervisory level. Who stands out? Who seems to have it all together and seems to be highly productive and has the communication skills to work with the rest of the crews to make them want to do what they want them to do. That's all based upon authority by recognition. When we recognize you as an authority, it gives you a position to work from to lead. And after all is said and done, we want this authority by recognition to be true on all levels of leadership, all levels of management. In sales, that recognition of that authority of recognition is what people base their belief in you and your presentation. I have to believe in you. I have to recognize you as an authority. I have to recognize you as a knowledgeable person with your product or your service. If you're selling me stock, I want to have the best stockbroker in town who is super knowledgeable of what's going on in the stock market. And that's true in insurance and selling houses and whatever the product or service might be. So authority by recognition is when people recognize you as an authority because you have created a level of knowledge and application of that knowledge and have a track record of success, track record of accomplishing things, track record of putting things together that work and seem to make sense. So those are the 4 positive authorities. We have one authority that's not all that positive. It's number 5, and that's authority by ultimatum. Shape up or ship out. If you can't cut it, we'll find somebody who can. And it's management by or leadership by or use of coercion and threats as a position of authority. Authority by ultimatum. We see it a lot. In most cases, authority by ultimatum is caused by frustration in the manager. They're frustrated because they can't seem to get people to do what they want them to do on time or do it right the first time and all the things that managers bump into in dealing with people on a day-to-day basis. And I would tell you that normally is an indicator of poor training by your corporation in the first place. Small businesses and medium-sized businesses have a real problem with this because in many cases an entrepreneur has created the company, but because he or she has developed a product or a service that's highly marketable and profitable, that does not make that person a leader. And the leadership side of it is what causes people to become a good manager. Without good leadership, management just doesn't work. And And all four of the positive authorities I've just covered carry with that leadership ability. This authority by ultimatum is management by desperation. How can I get these people to get to work on time? How can I get these people to produce? How can I get? And what we tend to do is start pushing rather than leading. And nothing ever comes out well in a pushing situation because there's resentment, there's turnover in personnel, there's dissension in the ranks. All the negatives come to surface when we use authority by ultimatum. So my advice to you, as always, is stop it. Just stop yelling and screaming upon the ground and lead people into a higher level of productivity by guiding them into the steps you want them to take. Being patient enough to work with people who are in a learning process and a growth posture. Those are some of the aspects of good leadership. That ability to see people's potential and be patient enough to bring it into fruition. So, we're going to look at these 5 in detail in the next 5 lessons. And so stay tuned. We will spend a little more time on each one because you are going to be in a position at many places in your life of actually leading and using authority. And what we don't want you to do is abuse authority. Stay tuned.